Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Been a tough day. Real tough day. And I know people come here for sports talk, and that's what I give you, and I will. But I'm not going to lead off with it because something is tremendously bothering me. And when things, I can't even pretend to be entertaining or to be funny or to be sports oriented when atrocities are happening in this country that are inflicted by the government of states and our federal government. If you don't know about East Palestine, Ohio, I'm just going to briefly go over it, and you can come to your own conclusions if you care to read more about it. I grew up in Canton, Ohio. I was in Canton, Ohio from the time I was 3 years old until the time, when I moved out in 1985, which would have made me approximately 27 years old. 84, 85. No, it was 85. So I spent all my childhood and recollections and my high school years, and then after my failed college efforts, and worked in Canton for a couple of years before I left in 85. I know the area of Canton very well because I drove the roads. I was a salesperson, and when you are a salesperson, you get to know the area. But the outlying areas for me were areas that there would maybe be no reason to go to. I went to Youngstown, but I didn't go to Steubenville. And anything in between was a mystery to me, but I knew of East Palestine because East Palestine, they had a high school there. And sports teams would come in, and occasionally East Palestine would show up on the radar as one of the Canton schools would play that school. East Palestine is only 5,000 in population, and a train went through over a week ago, 10 days ago to be precise, that was loaded with carcinogenic fluids that were there basically for as ingredients to be turned into PVC pipe and things of that nature, and they were being transported by train. The train derailed, and all of this toxic fluid spilled out and caught fire. And nobody really knew what to do exactly. I'll read to you some of my friends at WFMJ television in Youngstown. I have had a good relationship with the media in Youngstown through the years of doing this program. They report that 5 railcar tankers of vinyl chloride were intentionally breached. The chemical was diverted into an excavated trench, then burned off. Now, I want you to realize that people don't know that this happened. And in the time it took, about 3 days, to make a decision, that all of the poison, and you have no idea how many chemicals were in this mess, all cancer-causing agents. They tried a last-minute effort to go to people's houses and say, you got to get out of here, or else it's a matter of life and death if you don't get out. But the officials can't say how many people were actually able to get that message and get the hell out. 3 days they sat and they pondered what they wanted to do. They dug a fucking trench and they let the fluid go into the trench, and then they decided that ain't going to work. So we're going to put it all on fire and burn it off. The EPA letter states that areas of contaminated soil and free liquids were observed and potentially covered or filled during reconstruction of the rail line. If you don't know about the Love Canal outside of Buffalo, this is what's happened. It's happened before, and the people who are living in East Palestine, many of them are as good as dead as I speak to you about this. And I want to ask a couple of questions. And these questions are bothering me tremendously. It makes me not want to do a sports show, to be honest with you. Why did it take this long for news outlets to report this? Why was the only reporter from News Nation who came to do a live shoot from the governor's press conference about this taken away in handcuffs? They claimed it was because he was being loud. How come it's taken 10 days since the incident for us to be reading about this on CNN or hearing about it? Who can put this in their hip pocket and walk away? Who can do that? And then there's the worst part of this. More than a week after the train derailed, people there are still smelling strong chemical odors. If you're smelling and inhaling that stuff, you're going to be lung damaged. The United States EPA states the materials released during the incident were observed and detected in samples from Sulphur Run, Leslie Run, Bull Creek, North Fork, Little Beaver Creek, and the Ohio River. The toxins are now in the Ohio River, going downstream toward everybody in the Ohio Valley. Great, isn't it? And just like the nuclear holocaust, the dangers of Chernobyl, or God forbid, what happened in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, this has all kinds of implications for future generations. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Browns, the Super Bowl, they mean nothing to me. Nothing to me. I do this show because, well, I'm a sports fan, and I enjoy doing this. But it doesn't mean shit. You're damn straight, Christopher, they're hiding it. How do you hide something? What conscience could you have? What could provoke people at the highest levels of the state government to put this in their side pocket or back pocket and just pretend it didn't happen? How can you do it? And you know what they're doing now? The railway company who is responsible, because they're utilizing old technology in their trains, and it was a deficient braking system in the train that fucked up and caused the derailment and the fire. This is the same stuff. To put it into plain common language, this is technology that existed in the 1800s. That's that profit motive. And you know what the railway company's doing. They're saying the only people who deserve compensation for this are people within a 1 mile radius of where this happened. They released smoke into the air and let the breeze take it anywhere that it was going to go. The poison has been detected all the way into West Virginia now. But people, a mile radius, those are the only people who deserve compensation. And we've already stated that East Palestine is only 5,000 people and 3 miles of actual area that comprises that town. And sure enough, they said it's safe to go back now. Once they burned it off, come on back, everybody, come on back. You're not getting any compensation. Go ahead and just die in your homes. I don't know what to say. I will just say this and just leave it be. The pictures, if you look online, of the actual train wreck are sickening enough. Trains transported some very brave and scared people throughout Europe to death camps. Not just Jews, although predominantly they were, others as well, who were transported to death camps. And what the people didn't know is that the smoke that emanated from the smokestacks or the cremation of people who were gassed to death. And when I saw pictures of the plumes of smoke being released into the sky, it's all I could think of. This isn't World War II. This is now. This is the state of Ohio. An accident? Yeah. The cover-up is murder. I just want everybody to think about it and think about what's happening in East Palestine. And if you haven't heard about it, it's because all of your news sources, whether it was CNN, whether it was Fox, whether it was left-leaning, center-leaning, or right-leaning, didn't report it. Makes me sick. That's what I have to say about it. I have a dear friend who lives an hour and a half from there, who has well water on his property. Got to live in fear for the rest of your life. And many of these people have already consumed the liquid of death and didn't even know it when they did it. Thanks to the government, thanks to the state government, the EPA, all the government agencies, and the people at a railway company who deserve to be thrown into jail. All right. I've spoken my piece. The Cavaliers acquired Danny Green, who started his career in Cleveland as a Cavalier, If you're a Cavaliers fan, you'll remember Danny. He's had a very long and fruitful career, having won championships with 3 different teams. He's 35 years old. What we don't know at this point, we know that he's just waiting to clear waivers, but a deal's already been signed, a $2 million deal. Danny Green last year tore his ACL. What the Cavaliers want from him at this point, well, he is a guy who technically could shoot threes. I don't know if his defensive skill set at 35 coming off of an ACL tear is going to be what the team needs specifically. But I'll tell you what he is. He's a veteran who's been there and done it. And I think that there are very few of those on a team. I mean, Robin Lopez is a veteran, but what has he done? Kevin Love has won a championship. But here's a guy who's won with 3 different teams who might be able to impart some knowledge to the young players in the backcourt. You know, what energy they have to bring to get this done in the playoffs. Green agreed to a buyout with the Houston Rockets because there's no place in Houston for a 35-year-old guy. And it's very hard to say what Danny Green brings to the table right now. But that's what the deal is. Drew Petzing, who is the quarterback coach for the Cleveland Browns, is a leading candidate right now to be an offensive coordinator for the Cardinals if Jonathan Gannon gets the head coaching position there. So we may well have a new quarterback coach. I don't think the Browns will cry their eyes out about that, seeing as how Deshaun Watson is going to have some say in who the quarterback coach would be under that set of circumstances. But every team goes through this, and you're going to see it again. Teams who were in the Super Bowl or deep into the playoffs, their assistant coaches will be getting interviews from teams that are at the bottom of the pile. Happens every year. The white ones get jobs. Yeah, it's amazing how loud people can be about Rihanna's halftime show. And nobody's saying shit about East Palestine. Where are our priorities? I just have no idea. Honest to God, I am lost in this country. I am lost. I don't recognize it anymore. It has become a segregated, hateful place. That's what America has become, and fuck America. Fuck the people who run this country. Fuck the Democrats. Fuck the Republicans. Fuck them all. Dishonest people, money-grubbing slobs. They kill their own citizens, for Christ's sake. Hi, Bronk.
Whoa.
It's just... Here's a great article. What can previous Super Bowl winning quarterbacks tell us about Joe Burrow's looming contract? What does it matter? Joe Burrow's never won a Super Bowl. So what do previous Super Bowl winning quarterbacks have to do with Joe Burrow?
I don't know what lazy writer has written that.
Oh, well, Andrew Gillis of Cleveland.com.
Cleveland.com.
Yeah, the new Bengals site.
The new Bengals site.
Joe Burrow wasn't there. If you missed it, he wasn't in the Super Bowl. Okay?
Yeah, and his groundwater's slowly being contaminated as well. So
yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
That's terrible. I don't want to keep bringing that up, but there's actually like a mushroom cloud photo of that.
Yeah, it's sickening. Totally sickening. And And, some people say, oh, this guy's just going off and talking. I grew up in Northeast Ohio.
I
mean, this makes me sick to my stomach.
I have relatives in Zanesville, and, yeah, it's what it is.
Yeah. As for the Super Bowl itself, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. I watched with some interest to see who would win. I got to tell you something. That was holding. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, and I have seen our guys get called for so much less than that.
Yeah.
Quit your fucking whining. Why don't you go ahead and stick a pipe up Santa Claus's ass, Philadelphia fans? Why don't you figure out something to bitch and piss and moan about? Why don't you just go and urinate on the Rocky statue? Do whatever it is you do. But the fact of the matter is, if you grab a guy around the waist, you're going to get called for it. And they want Patrick Mahomes to win. The bottom line is, it has still gotten in a position, kicked the field goal, and won the game.
Yeah, we all know these referee calls are so discretionary. I mean, how many times could they have called holding in that game, and they never did? So,
I mean, I'm not going to get into it's more what I would get into is to say, for those people who said that the Philadelphia Eagles had a pass rush, playing the game on the most slippery field since the Stanley Cup Finals, made sure that nobody got traction.
Yeah.
People were slipping and sliding. You know what they look like? They look like Peggy Fleming when she was 6 years old,
They looked like, remember that brother and sister pair skating team back in the 60s, and they would do this death spiral thing, and they would fall down every single time.
Yeah.
Dick Button would go, oh my God, they've fallen over. Like everybody was going, yeah, yeah, they do. Yeah, they fall over every single time. That's what they were doing. But I wanted to make a comment about the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Did Joe Woods suddenly become in charge of them? Why didn't they blitz Mahomes? And why on that run that Mahomes managed to get 20 yards on towards the end of the game, the safety, number 43, actually tackles him from behind. But if you look at that play again, that safety ends up going suckered out of position off guarding nowhere, and that's the space he vacates that Mahomes runs into. Total mistake by him.
Well, I mean, I was looking at what they were doing offensively, and and they were doing kind of like jet screens and motion that was jet motion that led people to believe that they were going to be doing a bunch of end arounds and things like that, and which makes sense on a slick field, I suppose. But they were biting way too hard.
Oh yeah,
Philadelphia was just like biting down so hard on things and reacting to things that, I mean, Travis Kelce, for Christ's sake, I mean, again, it's like where he was going to throw the goddamn ball. But it didn't seem to matter because Philadelphia couldn't figure out what they were doing. And what I've titled the show, if you see the title on YouTube, do not tell me that Lamar Jackson is as good as Patrick Mahomes. Would you stop with that bullshit?
Are people doing that?
Oh yeah. Oh, Mahomes is overrated. Joe Burrow is the real thing.
Oh, geez.
Well, we'll never know if he doesn't get there. Yeah. I know that Mahomes has won it twice.
All these people need a good jazz bath, with some bath bombs. That's what they need.
Yeah, I mean, but I look at this and I say, it comes down to the ball in Mahomes' hands again with a couple minutes left in the game. And they move the ball down the field. He scrambles. He makes the big plays. And if you say to me, what is it that differentiated these two teams, it was the courage of Patrick Mahomes playing through a ghastly injury and the drugs that helped him do it.
Absolutely, because he had to be hyped up on something to be able to stand up and throw the ball, and and why the Eagles let him do it, it's a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's right, Double P. The guy who committed the hold acknowledged it was a hold.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really not an issue.
Yeah.
And but again, for him to be able to outrun enough people to have like a 22 or whatever yard scramble, God only knows what they put in his system.
Yeah, I mean, I would go back and look at that play. You'll see 43 was the one who blew it. I don't know his name, but the guy I feel sorry for yesterday's Super Bowl is Greg Olsen, who was the one banging on about that holding penalty not being a holding penalty, but B, now that Tom Brady's hired by Fox, he'll never get to do a Super Bowl again unless he changes channels.
Well, at least he got one done. I mean, and to Jim, the halftime adjustments, you would think that a guy who had just re-injured a high ankle sprain and the 29 minutes that he had to sit would have been the absolute death knell.
Yeah.
What did they do? Strap him up intravenously and give him pain medication?
Who knows, man?
I don't know either.
Very good point, but you've had leg injuries. I'm recovering from one. There's no way.
No.
There's no way that you can do that.
Nope. And so those are the huge factors. And look, both quarterbacks played well enough to win the fumble. They got returned for a touchdown. I mean, the fumble was exacerbated by the fact that it was kicked afterwards right into the hands, basically, of an open field. A guy picked it up and ran it in. But Jalen Hurts performed very admirably for his first exposure in the Super Bowl. It was anybody's game, but it was, again, the last man with the ball in his hands, and Patrick Mahomes doesn't lose in that situation. And wait a minute here, Spider 27, I agree with this too. It should have been much different than what it was at halftime score-wise, and you kind of knew. But when you saw him grimacing in pain, Mahomes grimacing, you were saying, how in the hell is he going to come out in the second half and do anything? And sure enough, there he is. He comes out with a bounce in his step, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, well, maybe they should urine test him and blood test him after this game, like they would do to LeBron or, all these other people that they suspect of performance enhancement.
But what I didn't finish was, if you're going to go the angle of the officials, I just wonder how such a terrible field condition could exist for the biggest game of the year.
Wow.
And you're telling me that the gambling establishments didn't know this? I mean, what was the over-under in this game?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, I mean, it would be interesting to find out, because I bet you that they kept it in such a way that the house wins.
Yeah, it was probably Philadelphia by 2.5 or something.
but the over-under. I mean, this was the second I saw this game start, I went, fuck, this is going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah.
And then I realized that all you had to do was catch the ball and stop, and a guy was going to slide right by. It was Holiday on Ice.
Muppets on Ice. Yeah.
Oh, look at this. 51.5.
Well, it ended up being 73.
Beat that by a little, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't trust any of it. I think all of it's bullshit. I really do. I think all of it is gambling diseased people betting all of their money on this crap.
Wow.
Yeah, but the surface, they said, but it's the painted area. It's not just the painted area. They were sliding all over the place. Whether there was paint there wasn't paint there. I mean, there was no way there was no defensive end pressure. If you notice, both quarterbacks were able, because the guys were trying to rush around the outside, they couldn't gain traction. They were being pushed to the outside, and it left running lanes. And nobody was running sweeps. The quarterbacks weren't running sweeps. They were going back into the pocket, seeing there was nowhere to throw the ball, and then they were running in the gaps of the field in front of them because the defensive ends were looping so wide and couldn't get back in. There were these lanes that they could run through. Yeah. That's what was happening.
Not only that, but I forget what touchdown it was, but there was one Philadelphia defensive end lost his footing, and the offensive tackle, the Chiefs, just basically fell on top of him and didn't let him get up. I mean, there were defenders falling down and the blockers falling on top of him, and the play was over for them. And maybe that's why they didn't try rushing, because they knew it wasn't going to work because of the field sucked. I don't know, but
I just want to remind everybody that Mahomes was named the MVP and not Joe Burrow. Okay, because he wasn't there.
Joe Burrow was not there.
He was not there. And if you wanted a reason to cheer for the Eagles, and it's not their fan base that would make you want to do so, but Jalen Hurts' story of what happened to him at Oklahoma, and
Alabama.
And Alabama, his college career, I mean, that he was literally benched for a championship game.
Yeah, well, that was something Nick Saban did to him.
I mean, and that was in the spirit, I'm sure, of Bear Bryant. Yeah. I mean, you want to totally destroy a guy's draft value, that's the way you do it. And the fact that he was back there, and you look at the improvement in the 3 years he's been in the NFL, and that he was in the ultimate game, and they were such a strong team during the year, and they were strong in the Super Bowl too. They the defense just let them down.
Yeah.
But that field had a lot to do with it because nobody was really stopping anyone.
Yeah.
How many punts were there in that game?
Oh, I only remember 2 by KC, and maybe 4 in total.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's amazing about it is that the Eagles constantly going for fourth down. They are one of the biggest practitioners of analytics, and so are the Chiefs. So if you're pointing your finger strictly at analytics, I think that if you're going to go with analytics, I understand it, but you got to have somebody who can call plays, and that would not be Kevin Stefanski.
True, correct.
Just between you and me. I was just, it amazes me what people will ask. It's like, if you live outside that mile ring where we poisoned, gave your whole family cancer, you're not up for any compensation, even if you and your family die of cancer. Nope. And the trains start running again tomorrow with the same poison in there. What they ask of people is amazing. Headline, Raiders quarterback Derek Carr won't waive no trade clause. Well, why in the fuck would he? He wants to be released from that team. He's Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yeah, I was just going to go, please
release me, let me go. That's what it is. It's like, hey, could you do us one solid here, Derek, before we're, let us at least trade you so we can get something in return. And know what you're going to get now is no.
I got the game book. I got the game book opened up. If you want any questions, there were a total of 4 punts, 2 by each team.
Yeah, I mean.
And that long punt return by Kansas City, that was absolutely
big play. You come out in that third quarter and you get that turned around, and you're down you're within striking distance, then all of a sudden you score the 14, unanswered. That big swing. Yeah, and Double Peep sees it the same way I did. I don't see that the officiating had a damn thing to do with the outcome. I think the field did. I think both teams asserted themselves pretty well. And the fumble, you can fumble the ball and fall on it, but when you fumble it and kick it backwards,
oops,
and you're the only one back there, except the people rushing you, it's a good possibility that not only is the other team going to pick it up, but they're going to run with it in the opposite direction.
Here's a quiz question for you.
Sure.
How long was Patrick Mahomes' longest pass play? How long did it go for? I'll give you.
Okay, let me guess on this. I'm going to say that it was the 22-yard pass.
That's the one.
And
that's the longest pass play.
I mean,
they had. Obviously, he couldn't throw long because he had no back foot to throw the ball off of.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. Jalen Hurts threw a great pass to Watkins that Watkins let go through his hands. That was a remarkable throw. There were some remarkable threading throws by Hurts that his receivers held on to in traffic. I mean, I think both teams acquitted themselves well. And if you want my opinion of the halftime show, what can it be except a spectacle? You bring out as many dancers as possible. The woman was pregnant. It wasn't like she was going to start,
gyrating.
Yeah, right. And but all I'm reading online is that she was during the performance miming masturbating, and it's like pregnant women masturbating doesn't really do anything for me. And the fact of the matter is, it's a money grab. Apple Music money grab for Rihanna and her cosmetics company. To put this in perspective, last year Jay-Z did the Super Bowl show, right?
Yeah, and there was a whole load of Eminem and all those guys were there.
Right. Do you know that he took $7.5 million out of his own pocket to pay to do that?
Wow. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, these people own so many, and I say these people, I'm not talking about African Americans. Don't get excited. All right. But the wealthiest of the wealthy, I mean, money begets money. They own so many brands, like LeBron James or it's like Warren Buffett. They're looking at that vehicle as promotion and advertising.
Yeah, they can write all that off.
Right in the middle of Rihanna's, halftime show, she stopped to put her own cosmetic makeup on her face. Did you see that?
Brilliant. Yeah, I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
I mean, it's all marketing, folks, and who cares what she sounded like? Who cares that she was lip syncing? Who cares that she really couldn't dance? And who cares, that there were 8,000 dancing ants on the field? Who cares?
I mean, most of the people complaining about this, let's be honest, are all like our sort of demographic moo, and they all wish that it was really Ozzy Osbourne and Kiss doing the halftime and not Rihanna. So there you go, and she's been at more Super Bowls than the Detroit Lions and the Cleveland Browns put together.
Hey, Christopher, we watch the commercials, but I never thought I'd get to see John Travolta singing Grease songs again, and that was about it for me.
Yeah.
So,
tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me moo. Tell me moo.
Now, you want to know what the definition of deja vu?
Deja vu. Oh, we haven't had this for a while.
No, deja vu. A cow recognizes things that he's already talked about on the program year after year after year, but the same headline keeps coming back year after year after year, okay? And you're right. Seeing Walter White was and Jesse and Tuco. I mean, it was like, yes. But eating popcorn snacks or whatever the fuck it was, I don't know. It's like, hey, but yeah, it was Heisinger. I mean, it was the real deal. Here's the headline: Andy Reid hopes if Eric Bieniemy leaves, he will run the show somewhere else. I mean, this
make it stop.
This is like the Swallows in Capistrano.
It's like the Buzzards coming back to Hinkley.
I mean,
the Woolly Bear Festival.
Eric Bieniemy would have been someplace else if they wanted to hire black head coaches. But I mean, let's be honest about this. A guy who was in the running, and I know he has a lawsuit, and it probably would have weakened his lawsuit if Wilkes would have taken a job with the Cardinals for a second time and become a head coach there. But he decided to take a defensive coordinator's position because, there's probably more hope in the lawsuit for him than there is in the NFL. That's the honest truth. And right. if Eric Bieniemy leaves, how long, it's like a fucking Twilight Zone. Eric Bieniemy wakes up in Kansas City. He's like, motherfucker, it's Kansas City still.
Oh,
poor guy. I don't know what more.
I've been talking about him since Tony DeCalf was 16 years old, I think.
I know. And then the documentary, you heard about the documentary that his wife?
No, what's this?
Sleeping with Bieniemy?
Oh, boo. Boo.
It was there, so I took it. Yeah, I'm even going to put Amsterdam up. Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, that's what you want to see in one frame. Elon Musk and Rupert Murdoch,
My God.
Talk about running the world.
Don't you love Elon Musk? The guy goes on national television and he goes, I'm the richest man in the world. I'm the richest man in the world. It's like, let an electric car run his ass over. It's like, God, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to get a big fucking swimming pool, fill it with dollar bills and take a big treasure bath on national television. And people are worried about Rihanna feigning masturbation. And, here's, the richest man in the world, and it's like, you just want to fucking just bitch slap him. It's
what? I was waiting for all the crypto.com adverts this year, but there weren't any for some reason. I don't know why.
Because it's fake and it's a scam. It was just another one of those things that came and went. There were
NFTs. I think there was one NFT advert where you scanned now and you got some, I don't know, characters or whatever, anime characters or something.
Well, and this is great. Continuing to reshape their offensive coaching staff, the New York Jets have hired former Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator Todd Downing as their passing game coordinator. What passing game?
Yeah.
But by the way, Downing, has worked with Ryan Tannehill and Derek Carr. So that might give you an idea that poor Ryan Tannehill and Derek Carr, might be headed for the New York Jets. So that would be the place that's
where they deserve to go, really.
Yeah,
if you can't go to Carolina, you might as well go to the Jets. Yeah.
And let's see if there's anything else here. For all baseball fans, and I know you're not around, but your favorite extra inning ghost runner rule is going to remain. Let's just put a man on second for no good reason so we can get this bitch over with.
It's 3:10 in the morning in England yesterday, and I'm watching this end of the Super Bowl, and I'm thinking, how about a rule change that if you give yourself up beyond the line of scrimmage in bounds, that the clock stops instead of letting the clock run, and that way the offense is forced to run a fucking play, or you actually go in and score a touchdown. I mean, wasn't that the most tedious last 2 minutes of a game that you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, it was an extended celebration. And hey, the way I look at it is, and it's not to denigrate anybody, but he was a little smarter than Nick Chubb was in a similar situation. And he took the ground.
Chubb figured it out the second time that he had the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard, when it's in front of you, man, and you're like, want to go for it.
I mean, they really should look at, giving yourself up after the line of scrimmage. I think that should be a clock stoppage straight away. And then taking the knee, the victory formation, letting the I mean, maybe I'm just a lone person that thinks that those should be, stopping the clock instead of running the clock. It would make the game a little bit more interesting in the last 2 minutes.
Before I get out of here, because we have a 7:00 start on the Cavaliers game.
Oh, what, you mean like 7:15 start?
Yeah.
After they do, hey, Cleveland Cavaliers.
But it buys me time to heat up my food. We're playing the Spurs tonight, who are 14-43. This is a game that we should win if we're taking it seriously.
Well, but we've won 5 in a row, and I've seen most of them.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. Cleveland's playing really good basketball. The win against the Bulls, you're saying, well, the Bulls aren't all that great. The Cavaliers were exhausted, man.
Absolutely.
5 games in 7 days. What kind of scheduling is that? And, and they sucked it up in the fourth quarter. This is what I've been looking for. Yeah. I've been looking for Evan Mobley to take the ball strong and have a decisive first step, and it's happening. And the defense to buckle down. And at winning time, and it happened. We overcame a 13-point deficit and beat the Bulls, and really just beat the holy hell out of them in the fourth quarter. No matter how exhausted we were, the players found the will and the energy, and that's such a great sign. Right now, as we sit, we've played more basketball games, 4 more to be precise, than the Philadelphia 76ers, who are coming up very shortly on our schedule.
Yeah.
But we've actually won more games than the Sixers have. We're 37-22 now. All right. Yeah. We're 8-2 in our last 10.
Yeah.
The Cavaliers right now are 2.5 ahead of Brooklyn, who's going to drop further because they have no players left. Miami is going to be a team to look out for us because, if you said, who do you fear? I'd say Boston, because Boston is just beating everybody. Yeah. I do not fear Milwaukee, and I do not fear Philadelphia, but I fear Miami more. And the reason is
Philly is Embiid and all the fouls that he gets given. So
I get it, but something, Miami scares me because they play garbage basketball, man. They muddy the game up, and against a young, inexperienced team, Miami is an experienced team, and their coach is a clever guy. And they're it's a little worrisome. But, as we sit right now, we're 4 games ahead of Miami. But the problem here is that if we stay at 4, there's a great likelihood that Miami would be either 4 or 5, depending on how much fire they catch after the All-Star break. But, I mean, Brooklyn's going to drop. So if we're 4... we get a home playoff, 7-game playoff, that's great. Yep. But we have to play the 5th seed, and that would be Miami. And I don't want that. I want that number 3 seed. That's what I want, so we can play the 6th seed. And that would likely be like the Knicks or the Hawks. I want that. I don't want to come out in the first round, man, and have to play Miami. I don't want that. But
it's all. I'm looking at the standings right now. It's all very, very tight, very grim. Yeah, the Heat are 7 of their last 10. They're 7-3. We're 8-2. The Bucks have won 10 in a row.
Oh yeah, but I'm not.
You're not worried about
that. I want that. If we make the playoffs, I would love for it to be a home series, and a home advantage series. But just getting into the main playoffs is the big step that we wanted to take this year. But before this whole thing goes to the All-Star break, Wednesday, so that you understand, February the 15th, that's this Wednesday. The Cavaliers and the 76ers have been moved to ESPN as a national game.
Ooh.
And this is being taken seriously now.
Finally.
Well,
you mean we're going to be shown throughout the world now?
It's at Philadelphia, so it's really in the hands of Philadelphia. But the Cavaliers know what's important. If they win tonight, they could tie the Sixers.
Yep.
For that 3 seed. So, at any rate, I'm done with everything I wanted to say, and I just, I would say God's mercy, the people in East Palestine, but I've learned a long time ago that maybe faith is important in this country because reality is so bleak and ugly. And to have hope is the only thing that we can do. And if a sense of religion gives us hope that there's something better after this shit life that we're living through right now, then I understand why people, are involved in religion. I get it. But I'll tell you something. Through my eyes, men are wicked. Men are evil. And they do things for their own advantage, and they will kill to stay on top financially. And they will impose false shortages to make life more expensive for people who can't even afford to live the way they want to live now. And they will continue to disrupt their own supply chains in order to raise prices.
And then when it comes their time for judgment, they'll ask for redemption.
Absolutely. This is the way it works. So I'm going to be cheering the Cavaliers on, and I hope you are too, everybody out there. And a prayer. And I don't ask for prayers from people because prayers, in my mind, I don't know. None of these things would be happening if there was some greater, higher power controlling this. But prayers to the people in East Palestine. They deserved way, way better than this. And that's what I have to say. Thanks, Bronk, for joining me on the show, and thanks to everybody for listening to me rant on. Go Cavs. Let's do our thing and get ready then for the Philadelphia game. But don't forget, we have an opponent to play tonight. Everybody, thanks for tuning in, and until next time. Hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Boo, boo.